Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going through our landscape cost guide. So it's pretty similar to our pool cost guide format, but it's designed and structured toward landscaping to help you understand what kind of landscape you want and what that might cost you, and some things to consider when designing your landscape project, to help you really know exactly how you're gonna get the yard of your dreams. So let's dive right in. So just like our pool cost guide, we've divided it into 5 different sections, and it's structured generally the same as our pool cost guide. So there's first, size and style; second, your materials; third, labor; fourth, landscape accessories; and fifth, additional prep work. So the first one up on the chop block is size and style. Size and style are huge factors when determining the price of your landscaped yard. In concept, the bigger the area, the more materials and labor required, thus increasing the cost of your yard by what is needed. Landscapes can have different styles and sizes. With landscape design, the sky is the limit. More conservative yards tend to cost less, while more complex yards cost more. You may know why. The complexity of the project, whether it's materials or the labor, will increase the cost of finishing your yard. Size makes up for the majority of costs. However, you would need to consider the type of landscaping being installed. It can be complicated, but the concept is clear. Not all large areas cost more to landscape. For example, installing grass will be cheaper than hardscapes and xeriscapes. Knowing this will help you make a better decision on what type of materials you want to use and where. The summary of that is landscaping can become very complex depending on what you want to do with your yard. Because it's complex, it's kind of hard to say that a large landscape is going to cost a ton versus a small landscape job. What you have to understand with that idea in mind is it depends on what you want to be doing with your landscaping. So here's some great tips that are included in the cost guide. Tips on deciding what type of style is right for you. Consider what activities you most enjoy doing outside. This will help you think of how much space you should try utilizing for these activities and the type of materials necessary to achieve your dream yard. Consider how you want to care for your yard. Larger yards take more time to maintain and water to keep it looking great. A well-planned and designed yard can help eliminate both those concerns. Next up, we have the second one, which is our materials section. And it gives a list of basic materials. Obviously, we know that materials are necessary to complete any kind of job. And so there's a big section here about materials and why they are important. We're going to go over a couple of excerpts. Everything good comes with a price. When determining the price of landscaping, a contractor may be okay with using the cheapest materials available. Obviously, this would seem to lower costs, but is it worth lowering the quality of your yard? That's for you to call. At Haven, we use only the best materials available. We build pools and yards that last a lifetime because we care about the little things. Quality of products chosen to build is nothing to skimp out on. Make your investment last by only choosing the best materials available. With that said, your mind might be flushed with, well, what kind of materials should I pay closest attention to? And we've mentioned that right here. What materials should I pay closest attention to? All materials matter, but the ones that should never be neglected are as follows: quality of the topsoil, quality of sprinkling system, and weed barrier. Now, the reason those things are important to consider and to never skimp out on is because they are like the foundation of what's built upon your landscape. So the first one, with the topsoil, if you have a low quality topsoil, your grass may fail in the future. It may have good spots where it's growing great and bad spots where you can't keep it alive no matter how hard you try. And then you'd end up having to replace your whole yard, tearing it all apart, bringing in good topsoil anyway, and that just seems like a roundabout process that you want to avoid because it's costly. So at Hayden, we make sure that the topsoil is good before we move forward with the planting of the grass, plants, trees, anything that's going to be going in the dirt. Now the second one, which was the quality of sprinkling system. We live in a time where technology is really advanced, and so should your sprinkling system. Sprinkling systems that are more advanced are more efficient, saving you water and time. Now, the biggest one is the water saving, because the sprinkling systems, it goes from the computer all the way down to the actual sprayer heads themselves. That is the whole sprinkling system as a whole. So it's not just a fancy computer running the sprinklers, it actually is the heads themselves as well, the type of pipes, just everything that's working together. So Haven, we give the best sprinkling system. that has Wi-Fi capabilities so that you can program your whole yard right from your phone. So based off of the areas of your yard, you can tone down if it needs more water, or you can, up the water. And this makes it great because you don't have to inefficiently change the timing from the computer manually, and you could end up just wasting water, or your plants are not getting enough and it's too hard to change. So hopefully you understand that concept. And the last one is the weed barrier. This is optional, of course, but at Haven, no matter what, we put in weed barrier. And here's why. Weed barrier saves your back. It really does. Nobody enjoys weeding every single day or every weekend, especially when there's a lot of weeds in the dirt. So as you see in the basic materials for landscape page, the picture provided, it's that black stuff. So weed barrier is a tarp-like material that prevents weeds from popping through the soil underneath it. But it also lets moisture and water leak through slowly so that current plants that are planted below the weed barrier can still survive. They don't get choked off from the water. We also have a separate video about weed barrier and its importance, so go ahead and watch that as well. So to wrap up materials, since materials are a leading factor in the pricing of landscaping, it's important not to use the cheapest materials available. The best materials will last and in the long run pay for themselves, so to speak. And you'll also have a better looking yard for longer. And less maintenance to keep it looking good. Now the third one is also a really big one, and that's labor costs. Labor needs to happen in order to get things done. So you can't ever cut that out. Basically, what is general labor? It's all time and labor costs to execute tasks needed to complete your project. Now, what may cause labor costs to increase? Upgrades. Upgrades may take more time and intensify tasks. The next one would be access a work area or site. The difficulty of access may hinder labor tasks or add cost to your project. If heavy equipment cannot be used, more manual labor will be necessary, increasing costs. Other factors may apply, of course. Now, labor is super important to consider in all aspects of completing your landscape project. Labor can be overlooked at times. In some cases, labor is the only thing necessary to complete the phase. For example, prepping the ground for sod or setting up the concrete forms. It may be easy to overlook the little tasks accomplished to achieve the big picture. Some labor is easy and some labor is hard, and both can take time. When determining the price of your yard, all labor has to be considered, even the little tedious tasks that are never noticed but are important. Labor is a huge factor when determining the price of your yard and can sometimes be a big chunk of the overall cost, and labor isn't very well negotiated. So the largest thing to take away from the labor side of things is if there's super complicated tasks needed to be performed, that will increase labor costs most likely, just because it may take longer, it may require more specifications and skill, and so it would increase the cost. Because of the demand being asked to be performed, it may be difficult, labor may be increased. So that leads us on to the fourth one, which is landscape accessories. Landscape accessories. Well, what is a landscape accessory? These things include like pergolas, cement pads, sports courts, gas fire pits, or brick ovens for pizzas or barbecues, or just outdoor cooking areas. It's not limited to that. There's a list here: floodlighting, speakers, power outlets, gas fire pits, shade structures, water features, security systems, and more. Prep work is important to consider when determining the price of your project, because there might be additional prep work needed to be considered inside of your bid because you want to complete something for the future. So planning for the future is important. Additional prep work is important to consider for future plans with your home or yard. During the landscape process, there may be other future projects that need prep before the finished landscape stands in the way. For example, if you would like a gas fire pit in your yard, running the gas line for the pit would also happen as other pipelines are ran. Having prep like this done in advance may cost minimally more, however, saves you a ton on the back end. Doing it after would not be as easy. So that is a prime example of what additional prep work would mean. So you're prepping for future plans with your yard as your yard is being landscaped. So when those future plans are ready to be executed, everything's set up and ready to go, and you don't need to ruin the yard that you finished to get something else that you want done. It's a huge tip to know about future plans for your landscape or home, It can save you costs in the future when you're ready to cross that bridge. It may cost more up front, but when it comes time to build or execute those additional plans, they are ready when you are, without spending more money on work that could have been done during the pool or landscape building process. Now, not always is additional prep work needed, but it's great to plan ahead. So to basically wrap this up, the easiest way to determine what the price of your project will be is you have to break these factors down because they all connect to each other. But when you break it down, it helps you understand exactly where the money's going and where you maybe want to put more money towards, or maybe where you want to cut back on costs. So this really does help you understand how a landscape bid or how a landscape cost is determined. And with this knowledge, you can be able to design your yard within your budget and help you get a better idea of exactly what you're going to get for your buck. And honestly, it's really helpful to just know what goes into this landscape project bids. Thanks everybody for joining in on this landscape cost guide. It's available on our website for free, so look in the description below. Also watch our other videos so you can be as educated when completing your projects outside as possible. Thanks everybody, and I hope you have an awesome day.